All right, Rachel. I literally enjoyed our conversation we had offline before. It was so much fun. It was just awesome.
I really enjoyed our connection as well. And I've really been looking forward to connecting with you now as well.
Yeah, and clearly you're at work. I mean, it's very official back there. I love that. People
Always at
podcasting from
work,
work.
always official.
So, I wanted to jump in actually and talk about this article that you sent me a little ways back about cursing during
I forgot which article I sent you even.
do
I
you
remembered I sent you something. It was so long ago.
yeah, right, about like providers cursing during their services and how like
hmm
people feel connected to that. How'd you come
hmm
across this?
Well, I actually came across it because cursing is part of my everyday being. And, of course, there's who you are, and I am a professional healthcare provider. So you have to be authentic who you are, but at certain times in life, you have to kind of, sometimes for me especially, you have to reel it in a little bit. And one of the things that who I am is I'm an authentic connector with people. And part of my authentic truth, I happen to have a very colorful vocabulary. And I think that, it's for me, sometimes a good fuck, a good, just saying it, right?
Yeah,
Just
sounds
saying,
great actually.
yeah, sometimes you just have to drop a good fuck, a good shit, a good,
Mm.
are you fucking kidding me? And like,
Yeah.
to me, if I want to say like, are you fucking kidding me? Or like, are you fucking kidding me? And it depends on your tone and depends everything, but I can't find a better substitute for, are you fucking kidding me? And just saying, are you kidding me? It just doesn't sound the same to me. And it's not really who I am. Right. And so I'm a healthcare provider, I'm a physical therapist, I'm a business owner, I'm a, Ivy League grad, and all of those things, it's kind of, maybe seen not so positively by a lot of people in that light. And so for me, I have to be authentic who I am. And when I read this article about healthcare providers and how when you curse with patients, or not cursing at them, obviously, but it's just using language as emphasis or using it in certain directions. And it actually said that it reinforces the relationship, the compliance, and the connection. And so I kind of just use it to validate who I am and allow myself to really be who I am in all phases of my life.
Now, was this like something you went into fairly naturally in the beginning of your practice, or were you kind of like, I'm not gonna like curse really
Oh, you
around it?
mean when I was in my
You,
20s and
yeah,
being a good little girl who just graduated from Columbia
yeah, that's
University
right.
and did everything exactly according to the books?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually started my own business pretty early on into my career, only 3 years after I graduated. But the first three years were a big learning curve for me. And I was on my best behavior for those 3 years that I could possibly figure out how to have. And it was an authentic version of myself, but it was certainly an audited, edited version of myself because I had to. And I didn't think that I had any other way to do it. And I quickly learned that my drive, my entrepreneurship, my independence was going to supersede all those things. And that's kind of naturally how I got into being and continuing to be an independent business owner.
So
Because
was there a turning point with this where you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna say fuck it, man. And I'm going to just like be in, with patients and be like, sometimes you need to say a couple things that maybe they're not used to hearing, just be yourself.
and again, I'm not saying I walk around like, hey, Mrs. Smith, fuck you, good morning, and goodbye, have a great. Sometimes I do, but so it certainly depends on the person and the
Yeah.
audience. And I feel like that's always in my life. If I know somebody better, the first time I meet somebody, I'm not like, hey, how the fuck are you? Get over here. But
Yeah.
it depends on the person. It depends on, you have to get to know people, their views on life, and see kind of, their energy that they throw at me allows me to throw them my energy right back at them.
Yeah.
And it's this reciprocity that happens. And so I don't hold back. If I feel that it's appropriate and they're going to receive it, sometimes I'll test the waters is what I
Yeah.
call it, and see how it goes. And if it's effective communication, then it'll just continue naturally. But that's not the question you asked me. I know I got off on a little bit of a
Oh, it's all
tangent
good.
like I do.
It's all good. I like tangents. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know what? All of life is just tributaries and tangents, and
Oh,
it all leads somewhere, but I'm not sure where, but it leads us somewhere, right?
tributaries and tangents. That's
Yeah,
I like that. That's
yeah,
good. I'm gonna use that. It's good.
yeah.
I'll give you credit for it. Okay.
Right here, baby.
Rachel, I'll give you credit
Well,
for that.
Well, my mentor, and actually, I think you were asking about when I first started engaging in a little bit more of an authentic version of myself.
Yeah.
And actually, my mentor, John Barnes, he's somebody who I met in 2005. And he's somebody who really helped me kind of let go of some of that linear good girl, have to be training that's been, shoved down my throat my whole life. And one of the things is that it's so obvious, but we call them John-isms that he says
Mm,
is there's no such thing as a straight line in nature. And
mm.
he'll tell us, look around, look at a park, look at the field. Like the only thing that you're ever going to see that's an actual straight line is a bench that someone fabricated or a fence that somebody put up. But in nature and the way things really organically exist, there's no such thing as straight lines. So it's all tributaries and tangents as far as I'm concerned.
That's great. There's a lot of wisdom being happening here in the beginning. I like that. From cursing to wisdom. I like
Well,
it.
but cursing can be because it's authentic. So it's sharing some of your wisdom in just interesting ways, right?
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm curious about this. It makes me think about you. Like when we talked offline, we really didn't talk about physical therapy much. We kind of got onto a lot of different things. But
Mhm.
it made me think. I am curious about your thoughts about the profession at large, and how is it different from when you started to where it is now? Yeah.
How is the profession different? That's a really interesting question because it constantly it's evolving, changing, just like life. And certainly the past 3 years, like since the pandemic and everything, like I think everybody's life has changed so much. So our profession has evolved and changed as well. But the basic fundamentals of what my beliefs are and how I care for people and treat people and what my raison d'etre and what I'm here to do, that actually hasn't changed at all. So my roots, my foundation of who I am and how I, through my business and through myself, provide healthcare for people, it's evolved and grown, but it actually hasn't changed at all because the foundations and the roots and the values that I believe in for patient care are still exactly the same.
And so, what are those? I think for the audience, it's good for them to know. Like, what are your values and the roots and the foundation that you started
Yeah.
on and you still maintain?
Yeah. And again, through John, my mentor and myofascial release, he helped me continue to develop myself and grow as a process because it is an ever-changing process. Um, it's about listening and talking, right? And it's not about just listening with my ears. I really spend most of my time listening and talking to patients with my hands and all of my other senses, right? So when I see a patient, I look with my eyes, right? When I first meet them, I hear what they have to say and I listen with my ears and I get my hands on them and I feel their entire mind body system, right? So I call it the mind body machine. So it's not just, oh, a frozen shoulder or pelvic pain walked into my clinic. I don't look at diagnoses. I don't look at symptoms. I actually listen to human beings and they really know so much and they have their own wisdom. People will come in and some people want to actually talk with their mouths a little bit more. Some people are more comfortable. They want me to get my hands on them and actually feel and listen with my other senses to understand where the imbalance is in their body. But the one thing that I have to do is I have to be open and receptive. I have to allow my patients to also feel that they're open and receptive. And then this experience happens between the two of us. And it's this one-on-one unique experience that happens each and every time. And that the principle of being open active listening and active speaking, whether it's using my mouth or other things that I do, is the root foundation of what we do in order to give good healthcare to patients and good physical therapy.
So, in the time that you've done this, do you feel that the patients have come with a different mindset to the process of physical therapy, or have you felt it's fairly similar? Like someone's getting maybe referred to a physical therapist or a doctor, whatever. Is there more resistance or less resistance, or it's just kind of like a grab bag of feelings that people have
You
coming
know,
through?
again, I would love to say in general, this is the texture of things. I think that with advances in, we get information so much quicker. I think people have a lot more information, but I think they also don't always know the difference between real valid information
Yes.
and just information. And I think that now, even I'll go on the intranet or on Insta or whatever it is, and I'll look at information, and it's sometimes hard to discern what's factual information, what's appropriate information, and what's just bullshit information.
Yeah.
Sorry to
Yeah.
curse at you,
No,
but
please. It's fine.
but
Yeah.
but there's a lot of bullshit information out there, and it's so hard for everyone, I think, including myself. I don't know if it ever happens to you where I'm like,
Yeah.
even I'll look at images now, and the technology and everything is so good. Sometimes I'll see a video and I'll be like, is that a joke or is that real?
Mm.
Is that filtered? Like, things are a little bit more confusing and difficult to discern if it's real or not at this point. So people come in, and of course, now that we have information readily available, people do a lot of research on their own, which sometimes I actually kind of discourage people from
Yeah.
doing, because they're being presented with things that they're believing to be facts and information. And first of all, it's not maybe necessarily pertinent to themselves. And second of all, it may just not be true at all. So that's an interesting thing. Everyone's different,
Yeah.
but they don't really know. So people are coming in believing sometimes they're more informed, sometimes they're less informed. It doesn't really matter. No, and you know what? The less
It's
informed, that
okay.
child, right? When a child walks into my room, whether it's a child of, that's 2 or 3 years old, or somebody who's, their slate is clean, a tabula rasa is what I call a child.
Mm-hmm.
I love when a child walks into my room, because children, they're open, they're available, they share, they want to. So I love it and try to make it almost like, and then also what's great about when a child walks into the office, they want to have fun. And that is an important part of anything that I do with people, or we do in the practice, is I want to make sure that they're growing, they're learning, they're meeting their goals, and they're achieving all of these things, but you gotta have fun while you're doing it. And sometimes I have to make things more fun for people, and sometimes people bring the fun themselves. And then that, again, is that collaboration that is just unbelievable. And it's an amazing hour or hour and a half to spend together.
So let's have a good example maybe of what patients may bring in as something they believe,
Mhm.
or like they feel pretty solid about the information where you're like, this is not necessarily accurate.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and again, it could be information like they brought in an article. Well, this article says I have pain in my pelvis and I should get Botox injections, and that's going to help rid me of my pain in my pelvis, and then I'll be cured. And I have to explain to people that that could be one thing that may be useful, and we have to look at the cost benefit analysis of things, right? So you're coming to me, physical therapy, the root value of it, it's a holistic mind body connected practice. We're trying to minimize interventions. We use our hands, we use
Yeah.
exercise, we use movement being medicine, and we try to do things without further levels of intervention, right? Of course, people always, sometimes you need surgery for things. I had to have surgery last year, and there was no other choice for me. I did other things to support it, but I also needed surgery. So I'm not saying surgery is bad, medicine's bad,
Right.
none of those things. Anything that helps people is medicine, right? But from a physical therapist point of view, we're looking to do it using our hands and using movement as the primary sources, and re-educating the nervous system and the brain to make the adjustments to the pain, the motion, the restrictions. And so you can just feel better organically.
Yeah. You know what's
Mhm.
interesting, I think, when both for you and I and what we do is there's a lot of listening talking, like asking questions. I feel like for me, like I was speaking at a conference yesterday and someone asked me a question about certain training methodology and stuff. And, the person, they want you to give them an answer. Like, this is going to change it for me. And I always tell people, I can't give you an effective answer unless I sit down with you and ask a lot of questions of what's actually going. I don't even know what's going on. So I can't give you the best answer if I don't know, like, what are all the variables I'm dealing with you at
Mm-hmm.
this point for that. And I said, I know that sounds lame because I'm not giving you what you want, but to give you what you want, I actually have to spend time with you to know
Absolutely.
that. And then I think that's our fast food answer culture is like, well, just tell me what the right thing to do. It's like, well, sometimes it's just more complicated than that.
Well, everything now, like I said, information, it's coming at us so fast. It's, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like, it's like really, we want that information quick. We
Yeah.
want to Google it. We want, just pop the pill and get better. But that's not the way wellness and authentic healing really works. It's a process. It takes time. And it takes not just listening and talking, but it takes that reciprocity and the energy exchange on that level that happens between my giving. When I give to a patient, I also take and I receive from the patient.
Yeah.
And it's that reciprocity and that exchange. Then the body has to take the time to process it, make its own adjustments. The brain, the receptors in our body make all of that adjustments. They come back in either later in the week, the next day. We then discuss, so how did things go this? And it's this constant reevaluation that happens. And there isn't a start and a finish because, quite frankly, being a human being, regardless of if it's a minor injury, something that's been more long-term, we're constantly enduring injury, change, all the things to our system, to our body, the stress, the strain of life in general. So it's this constant ever-changing process that if you have someone that has the knowledge, spends the time, and can actually support you throughout these changes, that's what helps to maximize wellness as a human being.
So I have two questions. Let's go with the first one here.
Only two?
Well, I have more. It just depends on what I hear. Like, I'm
Okay.
a big listener, asker type of person. But like, you've been doing this a while. Like, I've been doing my thing for a while. But what's the best part of it, and what's the most challenging part of it?
For me, it's the same answer. Yeah, it's the same
Oh,
answer. Yeah. It's the people. Yeah, it's the people. I love people. I
yeah,
really do. I am, I'm not about like there's no such thing as boxes, right? As far as I'm concerned, but everything, we have to use words, we have to put labels, right? So I'm an extrovert. I love people. I love the energy exchange. I love whatever. And so I thrive on my engagement with the other human beings that I engage with. But sometimes because I have my own energy too, right? And I have quite a colorful energy, so I've been
yes.
told.
I can attest to that.
But again, I also have to, because remember, when people come to me as a healthcare provider, it's their hour, right?
That's
And
right.
so again, I just have to keep changing my dial a little bit depending on, because I really, in order for them to maximize getting better in wellness, I have to listen to them and I have to give them what they need, right? So some people respond better to a little bit more colorful, a little bit more fun. And some people I notice I have to kind of dial it down a bit, and I don't curse with them as much,
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, oh, I forgot the question. I'm just
No,
talking
you
way too
said
much.
both of those things. You said
Oh, the
people are both
people.
the
The
most
people.
challenging and rewarding part of it, right?
It is, because what I get to give to people and then to see them and they come back to me and they're like, wow. I mean, every single time I spend an hour with a person, I change their lives more than an hour,
Hmm.
and I just tell them, oh, you're an hour better now, right?
Yeah.
But they're more than that. And they come back and they tell me, oh, Rachel, I wasn't able to XYZ. I haven't done that in X amount of years. And now I'm able to do it. And, even things like I wasn't able to bend down and pick my child up off the floor, or I wasn't able to like reach up or go take a walk. Some people come to me and they say, I haven't been able to get up and walk more than a block, and now I can walk 3 blocks. And so it's that life changingness, that experience. And then so the people then feed me because it enhances my life when I enhance other people's lives. So, and then it's also sometimes you work and you put the effort in, and you can't do everything and you can't help everyone all the time. So sometimes you come back and they say, well, I'm a lot worse now. And then you have to help them seek alternative things. So sometimes it's the people, it's their, whether it's their state of mind, their state of their
Yeah.
physicality, it's so multifactorial how wellness and the physical mind body gets better. But sometimes you have to say, you know what, I can't do anything more for you. And then you have to let that go and then move forward to the next person as well.
Yeah. It can be challenging. I mean, people can be the problem and the solution at the same time, which
They
is
are.
it's a weird dichotomy. But I want to move into wellness. So you mentioned wellness a few times.
Mhm.
Let's take like a large view and then we'll get specific. What are your thoughts about wellness as it stands in current society right now? Just general point of view. What are you seeing, observing?
I mean, and how I see it, because I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you how I see it.
I
It's
know
the
you're going to
only,
tell me how you see it. Believe me. I know you're going to tell me
let
this.
me
So,
tell you how I see it. No, it's the only thing. So one of my three like tenets of life, like my catchphrases are happy, healthy, safe, right?
hmm.
And not only do I need to be happy, healthy, safe, you need to be as a small community, we all need to be happy, healthy, safe. Now, the order of priorities, it could change, right? And again, those are more representative of state, we can use different words, right? But you know, they all go hand in hand. And if we're not all of those things all of the time, nothing works well at all. So I think it's the most wellness, health, maximizing those things. And again, it's not just about, how many green things can I eat today? Happiness is part of it. And happiness for everybody is a different thing, right? So for you or for me, because I'll talk about me, like one thing that maybe some people may not perceive as happy, like I think tequila makes me happy. And so
Yeah.
every now and again, I have some of that in my life. Now,
Right.
is it healthy, like according to, the powers that be? Maybe it's not the healthiest thing, but to me, it makes me happy as well. And so happiness, health, and wellness, they all go together. And it's about finding that on an individual level. And we all have to figure out what's that balance between them all to maximize our wellness and our happiness.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I mean, obviously you're going to participate in things that maybe not quote unquote healthy, but that's okay because if you're like, okay, but this makes me feel good at this moment and I'm not overdoing it, but I'm also like, hey, I find enjoyment in this. I think sometimes, especially in populations where they're just so rigid, like and when you're in fitness and stuff, you're always around. If you're around a lot of fitness people, it can be very rigid a lot of
It
times.
could be, but it
It can't.
doesn't
It
have to
doesn't
be.
have to be. And I'm always like a proponent, like, listen, it's fine. You don't have to live your life where it's like you're constantly watching what you're putting in your mouth and what you're drinking. It's like it's okay to let loose here. It's like,
It's
listen,
paramount to let loose,
you
though.
gotta let. You can't be on the train all the time.
If you're a person that feels good when they let loose, some people don't feel good that way. Me,
Who are
and
these
I think
people?
you, we're those kind of people. Yeah.
I don't know
And I
these.
think that's
I don't
also
want.
why we,
Who are these people? I'm like,
I mean, you never met a person like I have some. And again, I'm not going to talk about my patients because all my patients are wonderful.
of
You've never
course.
had a friend where you're like, oh, I can't wait for them to get that surgery. What surgery? To get the pole removed out of their, because that's the way they live their life. And, sometimes I can be very, very serious and I can really,
Really?
I'm in my serious setting at work.
You?
I can, and I am. But again, right? And so, but there are some people who you feel like you've never, like, you just feel like, oh, once they get the pole removed, their life is going to be
No,
better.
no, I
But,
know
but
this. I'm just kind of like saying, like, who are these people? I'm like, you gotta, I don't know. I just feel it's fine. You gotta do your thing. But like, there's a lot of joy to be had out there, a lot of wild times to be had out there responsibly that are just great stories. And I mean, and listen, if you don't want to have fun, don't have fun. But man, it just seems like not exciting. Like, it's like,
well, and that's to me and to you, right? And for
yeah.
me, like I am an exciting person. I need excitement in my life. And no matter what I try to do for a long time, for many years of my life, I wanted my life to be normal. I wanted my life to be just kind of boring, more straight line type of thing.
Really?
And yes, for a long time.
Why?
It's always isn't the grass, you never had those experiences in life where the grass is greener and it's like, my life is always so exciting. I just want to coast for a little while,
Okay.
right? And when I set the intention of coasting, I just get bored and it doesn't work anyway. It's a lot of work for me to try to coast, and it doesn't work out for that long. And then it gets into be more of a disaster.
It's a lot of work just to be normal. I don't want to do that. I'm like,
I stopped trying a long time ago, and then my life got a lot better for me,
yeah,
and because, like, first of all, what is normal anyway? Like, I think
right.
that's like one of the stupidest things that we can say, like, and again, was that average? Is that whatever? I mean, that is basic. That is boring. Like, I never want to
Yeah.
be any of those things because it's not who I am. Now, if it's who you are, I want you to be as normal as you want to be. That's wonderful. But again, it's about being your authentic self.
I mean, it's definitely about being your authentic self. But man, there's a lot of things you can be in life. I mean, you can't be boring. I don't know, man. Boring is not, you never want to be, guys. I'm just going to put it out there. It's my podcast. I'm going to say what I want. I'm like, listen, if you're like, I'm okay being boring, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. I'm glad that works for you, but man, I don't know a lot of people that want to be around boring people. I really don't, man.
And I can't imagine you being around those kind of
I
people, or
don't
you
know.
connecting
Yeah.
authentically with those people so well, because like one of the best thing, I'll tell you a funny story. Can I tell you a funny
Yeah, of
story? Well,
course.
I'll tell you a story and then you tell me if you think it's funny.
All
How's
right,
that?
I'll
I
tell
thought
you.
it
I'll
was
tell you.
funny.
Okay.
So I was playing, one of the things I also do, which again is not something I tell everybody, but here I go, is my alternate life is I would be a professional poker player.
Yeah, you told me
It's
that. I
one,
remember that. Yeah.
I know, but now this is officially on the record,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So um so I love playing poker, almost, if not maybe more than I love doing what I do as a physical therapist in life, and managing my business and all of that kind of stuff, being an entrepreneur, right? So I love, love, love. It's one of my passions. It's one of my drives. It is a hobby of mine and a leisure activity. Um, but I'm in a group, like a private group of people, and we get together. It's like, instead of Thursday night book club with the ladies, I have Thursday night poker night with my friends. And today's Friday, so I was playing with my friends last night, and I was really excited about my day today, because this is my first YouTube podcast ever, and I was like, I'm so
Wow.
excited, it's my
So
first one.
amazing.
Wait,
Oh,
are you honored, or am I more honored that this is my first one?
let me think about that.
Okay, get back to me on that.
No, this
Okay.
is I like when I'm somebody's first podcast and thing. It's very like it's a big honor. It's exciting. You know,
It
it's
is.
not boring, I could tell you that.
Me or you?
No, I don't think I'm ever boring. I used to be pretty boring though. I would say I used to be a fairly boring person in my 20s, which is
Mhm.
weird to say. Like, your 20s, you think you're doing all this stuff, but I felt
Yeah.
like I was like very tight all the
Were
time.
you serious, or you were
Very
boring?
serious, like very serious, but boring. Like, I don't think anybody would like really want to spend that much time hanging out with me because it'd be like, eh.
Mhm.
And let me clarify, boring doesn't mean like you have to go and like party all the time. That's not it. Just like holding like a good conversation, or it's like, oh, I'm interested in talking to this person. Like, they have some interesting points of view. Boring is
Mhm.
like you just don't want to do anything. You don't have anything to say. There's like talking to you is like pulling teeth. Like, that's what I mean. It's like boring.
I
Like,
call it just being an active engager, right?
yeah,
It's
it's just like,
like,
yeah. You don't have to be a party wild animal. I'm not saying that. That's a positive for me, but I'm like, but it's like a bonus. But just like engaging, and I feel like a lot of what happens in life is we just don't put ourselves out there. We kind of stay on the wheel, right? You go to work, go home, you got family, whatever or not, and you just kind of like do the same thing all the time. Spice it up a little bit,
just spinning on the hamster wheel in one
Yeah,
direction, and that's
yeah.
it, and that's it,
Yeah,
and
it's like
that's
it's
it,
got to be
and
more
that's
than
it.
just that. It just like
Hmm.
that seems boring to me. And maybe it's some people like that, but it's just kind of like you gotta have a little charge in the life. Pump it up a little bit, It's like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So wait, so back to the poker game last
Yeah,
night.
yeah, back to
Okay.
poker.
So I was like super excited and you know, I had I have a lot of emotions. I don't know if you can tell
I
that,
could
but I
tell.
had,
Yes.
and I'm not afraid to talk about them or show them, except sometimes I'm good at poker, but you can ask my friends because you
Okay.
have to hide it a little bit, right? Um, so I'm at the table, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I got Darren, and they're like, oh, like, who is this? And I was like, oh, he's like so cool. We had this conversation and we connected, and there was just something about him, and we really, really connected. And I'm super excited because it was good vibes, good energy. And I'm really excited to spend this hour with him because I know we're both gonna grow from it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, let's look. And they were like, what was so interesting about him? And I said, oh, I don't know, here. And I started to show them a picture. And I said, I don't know, he kind of reminded me of one of the Wayans brothers.
Ah, that's funny. Yeah, that's
And
right. You did say that. Yeah, you did say that. Yeah.
I remember I told you that. And you said, nobody's ever told me that before.
No.
So wait, so my poker husband, I call him, he goes, what are you being racist? Joking, obviously. And because you know we're in the current state of affairs where
Sure,
everything's
sure.
escalated about
Yeah.
everything you can't talk about. He was joking. He's like, what, are you being racist? And then I looked at him and I said, no, I'm not being racist. I said there was something about him because I grew up with In Living Color, like
Yeah,
I'm a New
yeah.
Yorker, and I grew up in that vibe, and there was just something like really comforting and familiar about our engagement. Like the second we started talking, I felt really at home with you,
Right.
you know.
Thank
And
you.
you know, it's certainly about your look and about everything, but it was so much deeper than that. Like you felt like our connection felt just, it felt old, it felt
Yeah,
real,
yeah.
it felt like something very familiar, and it was just comfortable and fun and amazing right from the
Right.
beginning. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't being a racist, and we joked around about that, but I guess whatever, you know.
I gotta
See,
tell
so
you,
you
this is a
see,
very weird story, man. I gotta tell you, like, not boring though. Definitely not boring. I feel like you'd never be
so
a boring. You would never be boring to be around. Like it'd just be like a lot of action happening. You
no,
know?
you know what though? I can be just as exciting and energetic, like, because energy goes bi-directionally. Like, I actually can and enjoy some of the things that I enjoy doing in some of my places. I call them my happy places. I am very, very grounded. I like doing calm things. I actually
Yeah.
really, really enjoy the quietness of life. One of my other favorite activities is scuba diving. And scuba diving, you literally get in there, whatever. It's exciting in the beginning because you're like, oh, I'm going to jump in the water. Am I going to
Yeah.
get eaten by a shark? And am I going to get this? Am I going to swim?
Crazy.
You get down there and it's just you, your breath, your heart beating, no other noise. You don't feel the world. You literally become a fish in the water. And it is the most beautiful, calm, grounded experience. And it's quiet and nothing else exists. And I really thrive on those moments. And for the whole time you're there, nothing else in life exists. You're just really, really present. And it's an individual thing. And so I thrive on those things too. You probably wouldn't guess all the quiet things that I really do
No,
like to do.
definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you know, that I mean, I totally believe it. I mean, like I have a very reserved part of me where I just want to be quiet, you know, sometimes. And you know, from different parts of the day, I enjoy just peacefulness, you know,
Mm-hmm.
quietness. Um, but you know, if I'm around people, I want it to be interesting.
Yeah.
That's like my main thing. I don't want to be disinterested by a person. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll be very kind about it, but it's like, I mean, you know, I feel like I'm getting on a rant here about this, but it's like, I think if you think about the people in your life, right? I mean, like, if I'm going to spend any amount of time with someone, I want it to be interesting. Like, if I'm going to have a discussion with someone in a podcast, it better be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can't be like we're staring at each other. I'm like, well, this was a bust. You know, it's like,
Well,
it
if we're
has to
gonna
be
stare, I'm
interesting.
gonna just stare at you like this, you know,
That's weird
because
how you
like,
did that. That's so weird. That's really
well,
weird.
I'm a physical therapist. I have good control of all of my muscles. I have to.
How do you do that with your eyes, though? I mean, like,
I so literally, like, I have, again, talk about being grounded and focused, like having that ability to separate and control. I mean, that's what we do in helping people, right? If
sure.
somebody's got a problem with one part of their shoulder, we have to be able to see the problem that's functioning
Yeah.
imbalanced, and we have to be able to help people retrain it. And so throughout my life, I've learned how to focus in on the mass movements of bodies and the way it works, but also the small things to kind of just
I
control and
mean,
move things differently. Yeah. And whether it's your eyeballs or, through movement in life,
yeah.
different exercises, different body parts. Yeah. You have to be able to function as a whole and be able to separate it all out as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm not even going to try to do that with my eyes. I don't even want to take a chance for that.
And I'll come up behind you and hit you in the head and you'll stay that way forever.
I don't want to knock the blonde out of my hair. I was just, I like the way it is now. I just want to keep it.
Well, you have to keep your Wayans brothers vibe or else we're not going to be friends, remember?
I just don't understand this Wayans. I mean, I watched a lot of In Living Color, The Fly Girls, all this stuff, man. I don't know, like which Wayans brother, like Marlon, like which one? It's like
It wasn't even a particular one, right? Or a particular, but it was just like that In Living Color vibe. There was just something about it. And I can't even put an exact finger on it.
yeah,
But again, it was just something. And it was that familiarity to me that,
yeah,
and you know what? It's like, I was there with them. They were like family, like every
yeah,
single week. You're part
yeah.
of you're part of their
That's
family
right.
too. Right. And it was a family, the show. And even as a person at home watching them on TV, you grew with them. I did, and was like part of their family, even though I've never met them as human beings. That was just part of the show, that, the evolution. Right.
All right. What was your favorite segment on the show? What did you like? Well, I have a few. I have a few.
I mean, I'm a physical therapist, right? So I loved Jim Carrey when he did Handyman, of course, because I always knew I wanted
So
to be a
bad.
physical therapist and help disabled people.
Oh, that's
Jim
fantastic.
Carrey's really, I
He
mean,
was so
he
good
was,
on that show.
oh my God. And wait, come on, like J-Lo. I mean, I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah,
I'm
of
a New Yorker
course.
in the Bronx. Like, what part of that show wasn't good? Come
No,
on.
no, you're right. You're right. Jim Carrey was an interesting fixture on that show because he was like clearly the minority on that show. But Fire Marshal
He
Bill,
was
I used
just
to
as
love
funny
Fire
as
Marshal
everybody
Bill.
else, no?
Oh, it was great. So like, I used to like this segment was like Men on Film. I always thought that was so 2 snaps
2 snaps around the back, right?
around the back.
Two
David
and
Allen
they,
Greer wore
oh,
that
I
tiny
forgot
little
about
hat,
that one.
the tiny little hat he had on there and stuff. And it was like, hated it. It was like, how good was that?
So good. But
Wanda, come on. Jamie Foxx playing Wanda, come on. No,
oh
you
my God, it was
didn't.
it she was like, she had bigger lips than me, like, hey.
It was strange, man.
Yeah, so wait, what part of that show wasn't good? Tell me again.
No, no, I liked all of it. I thought it
Yeah,
was even just the music, the Fly Girls, the way they, it'd come out, do the little monologue, and then
everything.
everything was just funny. It was so funny. Oh man.
And these days we can't be that funny, but
No, no, there
you
was a
know.
lot of stuff that you might be deemed as offensive at this
Oh,
point, but
I mean, these days I think Jim Carrey would be thrown in jail if he tried to do
Handyman,
any of those. No, they wouldn't have him arrested if he tried to do stuff like that.
it's a great
I
skit.
mean, no, I mean, you, anyway, I'm not a comedian, so I'm not gonna talk about that kind of thing. I'm just gonna talk about being a physical therapist because that's who I
It's
am.
okay, but you know what?
But you
You're
know what
more
though?
than a physical therapist. No, you're more than that. You're
I
definitely
know.
more than that. You play poker. You do all these different
I'm a
things.
human being, just like
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. I just interviewed a comedian actually, and I feel for comedians because I feel like it's a place you should be able to just talk about different stuff, have fun, But it's also weird being a comedian because like then people want you to tell them jokes and stuff when they meet you. Like I know a lot of comedians, and that's they people meet them and they just want them to tell them jokes. I'm like, what is this? You put a quarter in, and you tell me a joke? I mean,
Wait, what about what do you think happens when I meet people? Do you know what because I think I told you way back, I put myself through school bartending and
Oh
bartending
yeah,
specifically in strip clubs. Like I love working in
yeah,
hospitality. That's where I got a lot of my like customer service based skills from. Like I always worked in the hospitality industry. But it's interesting when I go out and socialize often. So if I say people like, oh, you're a physical therapist, like, oh, my back, people just they want me
yeah.
to massage them and help them in this. So
Weird.
sometimes a lot of, and it's great, but I do that all day long. And
Yeah.
sometimes I was actually, I was at a friend's house last night, and he unfortunately was going through like the loss of a pet. There were a few people
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and we were all gathered. And I knew some of the other people that were there, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how?" And I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's your neck? Whatever." And then all of a sudden, I'm there, working on somebody's neck, and with pleasure. We were in a small group, but sometimes when I'm out, like again, like a comedian doesn't want to tell jokes, so I'll
yeah.
tell people if I'm in a group situation. Sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'll be like, "Oh, I'm a bartender," and it actually is a much better conversation sometimes, and
Yeah.
then I don't have to work.
That's funny though, right? Like you're like, oh, I don't want to get into this other thing, you know. It's like when people ask me, I actually just got in this conversation with someone. I was like, listen, like when people ask me what my profession is, they just don't want to talk about it after I tell them. They're like, oh, let's shut that down because it like sends a mirror back. They're like, oh, you're a fitness executive, personal trainer. Then they're like, then they start feeling self-conscious around you, like, oh, I bet you see someone like me. And I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, it's like, but other jobs, people say they want to ask you all these questions about your job. Yeah. No one ever asked me any questions about my job. They're like,
Really?
avoid it like the plague, man. Like,
And to me, I think it's really interesting. Like again, like when I'm so curious about, and actually you've inspired me so much. I'm like, I want to do my own podcast, and I want to do this. And so to me though, like I found you to be interesting and engaging. And so I have a million questions for you still, but I know I'm not interviewing you today. You're
yeah, but
interviewing
you
me,
know what?
right?
It's a two-way street. It's a discussion. I like when
I
people
know,
ask me questions.
I know.
It's a fun thing because it's just a conversation.
Yeah,
But
for sure. For sure.
certain
I've actually
jobs
learned.
lend people into saying things that to talking more to you. And certain jobs, people, you're like, they don't want to talk to you if
For
they know
sure.
you. It's like,
Yeah. Well, it's really funny because sometimes when people find out I'm a physical therapist or a business owner, or whatever they want to categorize me as, because I have so many roles in my profession and career anyway, right? And then they'll start really engaging, and I'll be like, "Oh, but you don't understand. Oh, you don't know my specialty." And they're like, "What?"
mm,
And well, because I treat pelvic floor dysfunction. And so, oh yeah, so I know how to, if depending on the person, I'm either like, I'm going to turn this conversation up, or I'm going to shut it down real fast. And
mm.
sometimes I just say it because I'm not even sure. And I'll be like, "Yeah, I buy boxes of gloves by the hundreds and lube by the gallon, and I stick my hands inside people to help them all day long." And then it becomes an interesting conversation.
See, a person like me, then I start asking a lot of questions. I want to know a lot about that. So,
Exactly. But and then people don't ask for free samples also. What if I
yeah,
discuss that
well,
part of what I do?
yeah. Uh.
Oh, I'm making my mom so proud right now.
Well, I mean, it's just funny when you get around different company and everybody kind of wants to know what everybody does professionally, but
Mhm,
it's either like uh conversation promoting or
mhm,
conversation killing when you
right.
tell somebody what your profession is. They're either like really into it or like moving on.
Yeah.
It's
And you
like,
know what though? I've learned, like, if they're not into me, and I know sometimes I'll say that and I could be like, all right, this conversation's either going to shut down, moving on, or it's going to get really engaging.
yeah,
But for me, I've learned, like, if somebody's really not that interested in engaging with me and you're in a social situation or whatever, then it is. You just, like, that's the whole point of being in a social
yeah.
situation. You just move on to the next,
I'm just gonna
and
lie about what I do for a living, and next time I meet a bunch of people, and just
yeah.
go with it for a really long
But
time.
what's the career that you're going to pick? Like now we have to find one. Like we have to find your master plan and see if it works out. Like I always just say I'm a bartender, and then depending on the conversation, we could take it in different fun directions,
I'm
which
gonna
used to be
say,
true.
yeah, no, that is true for you. I don't want it to be true for me. Like I want to be like I was a go. I like, oh, I fly to Vegas once a month. I'm a go-go dancer. Yeah,
Awesome.
which
But
I do
then
go
what
to
are you going
Vegas like once a month. I mean, like,
but then you're going to have to really like run with your story, because like
yeah.
remember I did bartend in strip clubs, so I know everything that I
Right.
am able to learn about that industry. I was in it for a long time, right? So if you start this conversation
Oh
and
yeah.
people do want to engage, you're going to have to prepare and do some research. So you're going to have to learn about another career if you're
I'm not
really going to
worried
want to
about
go
it.
through this.
I'm really not worried about it. Most people are not that engaging about it. Like they're like I could say a bunch of stuff. Like Oh yeah, and you got to talk to me about the outfit I wore. Oh, I loved picking the outfits that I just just start saying
You
stuff.
could be a fashion designer.
Yeah, but like, oh, I like got those big chunky boots. I get right up on because I used to go clubbing a ton in Vegas. I've seen a bunch
Mhm.
of go-go dancing. Actually, it seems
Right.
like very exciting, actually, for at least for a little bit. Not for a long-term thing.
It's actually like it's just like any other job. It's work. And like for me, no matter what job I've had, I started working when I was 11 years old. Nobody ever gave me anything. I've been driven
Wow.
and a self-starter since, before I was even born, right? And I think that it's all about like being there, being present in what you're doing. And no matter if you're, delivering newspapers, if you're bagging groceries in a grocery store, and I'm going through my extensive career,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're working in a restaurant, if you're bartending, if you are an intern and you're working and you're not making any money, wherever you're going, if you're driven and you're passionate about something, you end up being really good at it, and B, you enjoy it. And that's the whole thing. If you're not enjoying it and you don't have the passion and the drive, then like you really need to go do something else.
Yeah. Most definitely. What was it like bartending at a strip club? And what was that like?
um it was an amazing, amazing, amazing time in my life. Actually, I learned so much about so many things. I had fun. So for me, I love, I call it like not the underworld or whatever, but again, I like doing things. Of course, I'm a professional healthcare provider, but I enjoy the other side of life as well,
Me
right? And
too.
so like, yeah, like Vegas, being in
Yeah, that's
casinos,
right.
you know, I this is another, I grew up in a Second Amendment household. So I started, my dad introduced me to responsible firearms from a very, very, very young age. So a Jewish girl from Long Island, like most people, like I've been exposed to a lot of things that maybe typically people wouldn't think that I've been exposed to in life. And working in as a bartender in a strip club was one of those things. And I loved it. I engaged in it. I kind of, when I'm in those situations, I look at it almost like an anthropological thing. Like I'm
Mm.
learning about how people engage. Like there were like lots of bikers and it was just so many interesting people. And, I learned things about like movement and dancing, because I'm
Mm.
always interested. I played sports. Like I worked there when I was in physical therapy school, right? So movement is my thing. And these girls taught me like not only how to do the moves on the pole, like I didn't do them when the bar was open, but I learned how to use them, right? That's the truth. I just want you to
I
know.
like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
But you know what I learned? I learned a lot about physics while I was there, because the secret that I don't know if everybody knows, but the pole itself is not a static pole. It's a pole wrapped around another pole. So the pole itself spins to give you that torque and that velocity. Is how you can do so many cool moves by using muscles and physics, because the pole itself moves. And like
Mm.
that's something that I learned. And it was like, so it was like awesome as far as like engaging, having fun, and just learning about like I don't know how many people in life know that the pole in a strip club
I
actually
didn't know
spins.
that.
There you go.
Honestly,
See,
didn't know that.
that's
Yeah.
your learning for the day. So
The pole in the strips club, it spins. That's the
yeah,
takeaway
I
from
mean,
today.
again, I haven't worked in one in a while, but and again, maybe technology has changed for now. I'm not really
Strip
sure,
club
but
technology is
I don't know. Hospitality technology, I don't know.
yeah,
Things
maybe
are
there'll be
different these days.
holographic strippers in the future, it could be a thing.
Oh my gosh. And it won't be that far in the future either.
Agreed.
It's incredible what's going on so quickly. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, my mind is just blown by even the little dribs and drabs. And I don't understand technology so well. It's definitely not my area of
Yeah.
expertise, but it is like mind blowing what's
It's
going
mind
on
blowing.
these days.
It's infiltrating strip clubs. I have to tell you, I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
When I lived in Vegas for a long time, like 13 years, and probably the first, just in my 20s, I was like, yeah, I'd never been to a strip club. And so my wife and I, we're already married, so we were like, let's see what this is about. So we would go to this place, Olympic Gardens in Vegas, and I think for like 6 months we were going pretty regularly to the place, and we always had a good time. But then I just kind
Because
of
you
got
were
tired of
learning
it.
how to do the physics of dancing around the pole,
Yeah,
right?
I
Hmm.
mean, no,
Hmm.
I was handing out a lot of ones. Let's put it that way. But I was like, you know what? I just speaking of the other side of life, I was like, there's definitely another side to this. There's got to be, because you're going at nighttime. I said, my brother-in-law was in town. I said, what if we went at like 2 p.m. one time? And I got to tell you, the most depressed I've ever been in my life was being at a strip club at 2 p.m. in Las
Mhm,
Vegas. It's one
mhm.
of the worst
Like on a
experiences.
Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, like really bad. Like I was like, wow, I can't be here. I got to get
I
out of
hear.
here. I don't
Do you
know.
want to
It's
hear
really
from the other side of the coin as
yes. Let's
somebody
do
who
that.
doesn't freak with them, but not to say I never have, but has worked in them before? I always say, like, and again, I have owned my own business since 2005. I have my blah blah blah, my degree from Columbia. I'm a physical therapist, whatever. And I say, if somebody says, we talk about, my hospitality and my, how I kind of got to the place where I'm at, I said, you know what? I would go back there today and work at any strip club. It would be so much fun. I would love it.
Yeah.
I said, but the only problem is because I'm so damn old, I would have to be working during the day. I would never be able to work at night at a strip club again. I'd have to be a daytime bartender because I wouldn't be able to hang at night because of so many other factors. So
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're saying.
It's
But
depressing.
I would even go and work during the day just because it would be just such a fun experience to relive, I
It's
suppose,
just something to try. It's like I had to see what life was like at 2 p.m. at this place.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need to know what it was like after that. I was like, we're good. I've I showed up at 2. And we just looked at each other. We're like, whoa, this is definitely not how it is at like 10 p.m. at night.
Totally different.
Totally
Totally
different
different.
clientele, people. And I was like, what is happening? And here is this so sketchy.
But
Like,
just like anything else in life, like where you go, when you do it,
yeah,
how you do it, how frequently you do it, whatever. And
right.
it changes everything,
I mean, if you go
right?
clubbing at like 11 p.m., to midnight, it's a lot of fun. 2 a.m., it's a different crowd in there,
It's a
man.
different game. A
It's a
different
different
game.
game. It gets sketchier the later it goes, I feel
Same thing
like.
in the poker rooms too, like playing
Really?
cards. Like if I go away, like if I do a tournament or go away for a weekend, I sometimes, like, I'll think about like the time of the day that I want to play. And
Yeah.
especially like poker is generally a male dominated hobby. Like that's just,
Right, right.
common. Right. And so like, but that doesn't matter. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. So for me, there's so many different parameters that kind of play into things. And sometimes I'll think about it. Like if I'm away for a weekend, like, do I want to go play, like walk in at 8 p.m. and do I want to walk in after dinner, like, dressed like this, or do I walk in
Yeah.
at 2 a.m. or what about 12 p.m.? And it's always different. And every table, every situation, everything is different. And that's the amazing thing about the game, the sport, whatever you want to,
Yeah.
no, it's not an addiction for me, but it's a hobby.
Yeah.
But it is really so fascinating because it is never, ever, ever the same. Each time it's exciting, it's independent. It depends on all the people you're sitting with, the energy in the room. And it's so different. And I always have a blast no matter what though.
Yeah. You ever play in Vegas? You ever play poker in
I
Vegas?
have played in Vegas.
Yeah.
I have some really, really good Vegas stories. Vegas
Me
and
too.
we have fun together. But Vegas and I are, yeah, definitely not meant to be in a long-term relationship. Let's call it
Really?
that. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
it's super, super fun, but also like there is a serious component to playing poker. Like there
Sure,
is,
of course.
I mean, it's math, it's thinking, it's logic, it's strategy. And to me, Vegas, when I go there, I kind of, I haven't been there in a long time, but when I've gone there in the past, it's just total
Too much
disarmament.
tequila?
And it's just like, what?
Too much
Too much
tequila?
tequila. I mean, I probably have had some nights of too much tequila in my life in Vegas. Yes, I will admit that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay
Maybe
to
I need
admit.
another one soon. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people just hate Las Vegas. Like, actually, I think most people I know just don't like it. I don't,
But
I don't understand that.
it's like saying I hate Disney, or saying I hate, like, an all-inclusive luxury resort. Like, now again, is that ideal for me? No, I love natural beauties. I love organic
Sure.
things. I love off the beaten path things. But you know what? If you go to Disney or go to Las Vegas and that's your expectation, like, it's a fantastic experience. Like,
Oh,
Vegas is a wonder of the world. Like, you've never
yes.
seen anything like it. Like,
Yeah.
so if you can accept the experience for exactly what it is,
Yeah.
it's a really perfect example of what that experience is. Like it would be like, and I've never been there, but I imagine it'll be like going to Dubai or going
Yeah.
to, there's so many of these contrived, fabricated places
Yeah.
that for what they are just like, again, they're just incredible experiences, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people, they don't, maybe, they don't like the gambling part, or it's just really crowded. But again, I don't know. I think it's not like I want that all the time in my life, but there's moments in life where I want that energy,
Yeah.
where I want, I'm going to Vegas today, actually, like literally right after this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What time plane should I meet you there on?
A five.
Awesome. You actually reminded me of a really creepy experience I had in the beginning of the pandemic.
I remind you of a creepy
You
experience.
no, now you listen, Wayans brother. No. No. You reminded me because you said some people don't like it because it's crowded, right?
Yeah.
And these experiences are like these consumer experiences, like you go to Vegas and you know it's going to be busy, loud, crowded.
Yeah.
That energy is going to be like, level 11, right?
Yeah.
One of the weirdest experiences I had during the pandemic is I was staying maybe 20 blocks away from Times Square, right? And I walked, and things were really extra creepy in the beginning, right? Like
Yeah.
for me anyway. And it took some adjusting. We're still adjusting in weird ways, right? But the beginning part was, and I took a walk and I walked down Broadway in New York City towards Times Square. And I literally walked about 4 to 5 blocks, and I was standing in the middle of Times Square, and there was not one other human being around. It was one of the most surreal, and at the time, frightening experiences of my life. I lived right near Times Square for many, many, many years, and I would walk to commute to work, and I'd have to negotiate the crowds, and I'd try to avoid, because if you're getting to work and you're living in New York, you don't want to be involved in it trying to get to work on time or
Right.
get wherever you have to go. But standing in the middle of Times Square without another human being around was like, still, I'm starting to get chills from the experience. It was like such a visceral, mind-blowing experience for me. I could, because it's normal for Times Square to be busy and action and loud and all those people. It's still literally, my heart is beating faster just remembering my experience of actually physically being there. It's changed. I'm like sweating from it right now because it was such an otherworldly experience to be there without the crowds, without the people, and just the lights flashing. And that was the only noise that there was in all of Times Square. So it was, it was a big experience for me.
Yeah.
So
a lot of experiences in life to be had out there, and
sure.
I'm going to be experiencing that tonight when I go to Vegas.
Awesome. So what are you doing in Vegas then?
I'm going to meet a friend of mine, and we're going to go to some cocktail bars and just chat and just connect. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's my version of partying at this point in my life. I just, have your drinks, maybe have an edible, and then just talk about a lot of just very interesting, deep things. I'm not ripping up the town. I'm kind of going a few places, but I'm enjoying very intimate, exciting conversation, deep.
Well, but you're ripping it up on a one-to-one level.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
to
that's
me,
it. Yeah.
those experiences can just be like so thrilling and so exciting, like
Yeah,
almost as exciting as being in Times Square, Vegas with all the crowds, is
sure.
how far you can travel when you're connecting with one other human being.
Right, that's right. I mean, I'm not clubbing anymore. My clubbing days are over. Honestly, they are.
Hey, don't say that. Wait, what?
It's
Maybe
the environment.
Come on, one time.
One time. I know I would probably do it one time. It's just that this is gonna sound like really old of me, but it's just too loud. Like it's just like, and here's the thing. It's not that it's so loud, like I don't like the volume. It's just that the volume doesn't allow me to talk to people. Like in Vegas is famous for this. Like you go to a restaurant and this like music is so loud you can't talk to the people you're eating with, right? And stuff. So anything that is too loud where I can't talk to someone, I don't really want to be there. That's what clubbing does.
I agree in a restaurant if the music is too loud and then you have to I mean, I have a pretty loud voice to begin with, but in a restaurant, if you can't hear other people, I agree. But if you're going to a concert or a club or any kind of music, to me, I go there and I like to resonate with the people and the crowd, but I like to resonate with the vibration and the life of the music. And
Yeah.
so if I'm at a concert or a club, I want to move, I want to dance, I want to feel the vibration, I want to vibrate with it. And I don't really want to do, actually, those are places that I don't like to do a lot of talking. If I'm at a concert, maybe I'll be singing, I'll be, vibrating my vocal cords and
Sure,
stuff.
sure.
But I don't go to a concert or a club to talk to my friends. I go there to feel and to move and to let loose on that physical level.
Yeah. See, I don't go club anymore, but like clubbing, see, my clubbing experience is literally Las Vegas. Like
Right.
my clubbing is like big clubs, like gigantic, monstrous, biggest clubs ever in the world. But clubbing changed in Vegas because it used to be about dancing. I'm all about that. Dancing, you go up, you get tired, you go off the dance floor, you talk with someone for a little bit, you kind of, then you get back out there. Now people just stand around and watch a DJ, not even DJ. They just play songs.
Yeah.
And people, it literally creepy people are lined up on the wall trying to catch people and stuff. Like it's not even exciting. It's just
Yeah.
like standing around and everybody has their phone up and just taping stuff. That's not
Yeah.
clubbing. So it's
No.
loud. We can't talk. There's no dancing. Creepy people. Not my thing. Like,
I don't know. You could still find experiences where it's fun though. Like, have you ever been into live music? Like, I still like going to, and I like live music venues that are small and intimate. And when you go to a more larger, like a festival, an outdoor setting, boy, those are so much fun.
I need to be able to like actually hear what they're saying. Like, if it's just too loud, I have a lot of specifications. I know this sounds like I don't want it to be so loud where I really can't even like hear them singing the lyrics, or it just sounds like they're shouting the lyrics. And I'm like, well, I could just listen to the album and it sounds way better than this. It's kind of thing. Like I'd rather it be a more intimate venue where I could hear everything and I can actually feel their talent. Like if I can't feel the talent because it's just yelling and screaming, I'm like, it's not for me.
So you're not into like thrasher or heavy metal, any of that kind of music then?
No. I'm mainly into talking. Like I'm either going to be dancing or we're going to be talking. That's going to be happen right there.
So you either move one muscle or you move them all.
That's exactly right. But I mainly want to talk. Like I don't know. I just mainly want to talk. I want to have interesting conversations. But I'm all about the music, but like don't make it so loud that like the performance suffers because it's too loud.
Yeah.
Or when I'm taking a break from hanging out in it, like I just can't hear myself. I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, actually dancing, like whether you're dancing with one person or in a group or whatever, it's a conversation that you have between your body and one or several other people's bodies. And so you're not necessarily moving your mouth, but moving your body, the dance that you do with somebody else whether it's just that movement to the rhythm and to whatever. Boy, what a conversation that is that actually happens and goes on with.
I got to find different places to club, man. Maybe that's just what it is. I'm used to these big stadium arena clubbing experiences that are just not that interesting to me. I need something probably more intimate, smaller level, exciting, but like, I don't know. Obviously there's options. Anybody out there, you tell me, we're going to get it popping, but
I wish I had something,
Vegas,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you need to get out a little bit more, Darian.
What are you saying? How can you say that? Oh man, I got to tell you, I knew this was going to be good, Rachel, and it was. It went all over the place.
Oh, great. Good. Well, so now, do I get an Uber rating on it or a star rating on it or no? So what we do in healthcare, it's we'll find out. Oh, now you just made me nervous.
That's for the people.
So in healthcare, it's so interesting because we always look at it like a 0 to 10 scale, right? And we usually look at it as like pain because that's a big thing people talk about, right?
Yeah.
And so it's 0 is no pain, so 0 whatever, and 10 is the worst pain, like take me to the hospital and cut my head off instead. Yeah. That's kind of how I look at the range. And so normally like 10 out of 10 is a good rating. But I actually, on my scale, it always goes up to an 11 because 10 is never enough, right?
You want me to give you a rating? Is that what you want?
Oh, if you want to, you can. That's
okay. Fine. So what is this scale? This is like a Likert scale. Like what's the 0 to 10?
Well, to me, like 11's my number. So 11 is the 11? Best always. Yeah, I am an 11, right? So like that's where
I'm an 11.
No, actually, it's funny though. And so my dad, he was 11. I always played sports. I was always number 11. and I'm actually, and then you can give me the rating. And
Okay.
my son plays sports now. I have a 12-year-old, and I've been telling him since he was born, like, no, it's a something that's passed down from family member to family member. You're 11.
Yeah.
And so he only wants to be different numbers now. He wants to be 2 or 8, but he knows deep down inside that he's 11 also. So it's okay.
So 0 to 11. 0 is like, you're the worst guest I've ever had. 11, you're like the greatest guest in the history of all guests, type of thing.
Well, I mean, it could go, it's your scale, so it could actually go above 11. I'm just telling you that, 11 is where 11 is for me. We're looking at my scale. So you get to choose whatever number you want it to be.
I'm going to give hardcore, radical honesty here.
Please do.
It's what people need to get, is radical honesty. I'm going to say 9 out of 11. Just honest. I think that's really good.
I think that's amazing.
I think that's really good, right? Because you're very, you have a lot of
2
charisma.
snaps up and behind the back.
I wish I had that little hat too, man.
Wait, listen, I would remember an hour ago, I was a virgin, right? I have never done a YouTube podcast before. I've never had a conversation like this before. So for me to receive from you, who I actually consider somebody who's pretty experienced and knowledgeable, and I feel really honored to actually even have this opportunity for this conversation. Hold on. So, okay.
It got emotional.
I'm really honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think like a 9 out of 11 is even better than I could have even like.
No, it's good. I mean, because you have a lot of charisma, you're fun, exciting, a lot of interesting things. You got an interesting story. Like, you're obviously doing well as a professional, but it almost seems like you're just kind of like you're very, how do I say this? You seem like you're a very successful person, but you're also kind of like, I'm doing other stuff too. I'm just kind of like interested in a lot of different things. Like, you're not like living and dying on this. You feel like, like, and I like that. You want to explore other parts of life. And I have a lot of respect for that. And being fun is important.
I think that exploring all the parts of life, that's what living is all about. And, I know we alluded to it before and whatever, but I actually had a really interesting battle with cancer last year, very unexpected, very whatever. And so that was another newer shift in my life. Like, of course, I used myofascial release and my network and all of the parts of healing and wellness that I needed to. But that also, like, the fact that I actually at 45 years old was faced with coming to accept the fact that, like, all right, when somebody tells you have cancer, and like at first they thought I had pancreatic cancer, they're like, I was like, okay, like, let me hear it, let me understand it, let me process it. It wasn't easy, but I actually came to a point where I actually accepted that it was a big possibility that I was going to die last year. And I didn't, and I fucking beat it, and I'm doing fucking great now. And I have another scan coming up in a few months, and I'm going to fucking do well on that too. Right.
Love it.
But actually, and I think that there's some things in life where you can say, like, this is what I would do or I could do, but until you're actually presented with the experience, and, I hope you or nobody else you do it, but when you're actually presented with the experience, and especially for me, it happened at 45, where I actually need to accept the fact that I have something that I could be dead very soon. And then it didn't happen. It gave me a bigger appreciation and lens on life that I am so grateful for. And it was one of actually the best things that could have happened to me.
Wow,
so
what a perspective. And what a time here. I mean, 9 out of 11. That's pretty good. I'm telling you. Really good. Very exciting. Rachel, been a pleasure. Tell everyone how they could connect with you and get more Rachel in their life.
So I can be found at www.midtownpt.com. I'm on Instagram at Midtown Physical Therapy. My personal Insta is Omniscient Witch. I didn't even talk about my witch, but that's okay. We can talk about her
another time.
Part two.
Another time,
And yeah, so Midtown Physical Therapy is my business. I'm in New York City, and you can find me kind of anywhere. And we have to talk again because I am going to be starting my own YouTube channel sometime very,
Love
very
it.
soon. And you've been the direct inspiration for that. So I want to just give you like with all my heart is
Thank you.
purple, and I'm giving you a piece of it. And I really want to thank you so much because you actually, in so many ways, have changed my life in a very, very
Oh,
positive and meaningful way. So thank you.
it's not often to hear something like that on a regular basis. So thank you so much. I'm going to receive that. Thank you for telling me that. And Rachel, please have a great rest of your day. Enjoy
You
it.
too. Thank you.